you, everybody, for coming to the College Football Betting with Aaron Torres YouTube channel. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of the screen. Go ahead, click that subscribe button. It helps our channel grow. It helps our audience grow. I appreciate it more than you know, as we're talking college football on this channel year-round. Appreciate your support. Click that subscribe button. It is a rematch of a championship that has felt, I don't want to say less consequential, but certainly less like a rematch of a national championship game than Michigan traveling to Washington. Washington in this game, believe it or not, is a 2.5-point favorite at home. The over-under, a minuscule 41.5. I think the first thing on this game, listen, it's hyperbole. It's going to be kind of a punchline and a tagline throughout the week, but it's the truth. I mean, these two, you think about all the people that were in the stadium at NRG Stadium when Washington and Michigan played in the national championship that are not going to be there on Saturday night. It's kind of jarring, right? Jim Harbaugh's not going to be there. Kalen DeBoer's not going to be there. Ryan Grubb's not going to be there. Jesse Minter, the defensive coordinator for Michigan, who is elite, is not going to be there, let alone Michael Penix, Roma Dunze, some of the guys that transferred to Alabama with Kalen DeBoer, Jeremy Bernard, Alabama's second leading receiver right now. From the Michigan perspective, J.J. McCarthy, Blake Corum, Junior Colson, on and on and on and on and on. So two completely different teams, two completely different programs. And I think two programs and teams really kind of trying to find themselves, I think specifically from the Washington perspective. Now, Michigan, it kind of makes sense, doesn't have as much kind of soul searching to do. They know who they are. There are still a lot of pieces and certainly the infrastructure in place from a year ago. But Washington, listen, new head coach with Jedd Fisch, he inherited nothing. And I was critical of Jedd Fisch in the manner in which he left Arizona, but I don't think there's any doubt that this guy is a good coach, and this guy, given time, will get it right. And I actually think the fact that they're 3-2 right now is actually a little bit of a testament to him. Now, they don't have any like signature wins or anything, but this was a team, like, I think the stat coming into the year, and Washington fans, if you're listening, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I think the stat was they had 2 players on the 2 deep from last year's national championship game that are even on the roster still. Not 2 starters, 2 on the 2 deep. So that is an insane stat. It's an insane number. And the one thing that Jedd Fisch did sort of inherit that he should thank Kalen DeBoer for is Will Rogers. Okay, so remember, Will Rogers was at Mississippi State, a record-setting quarterback under Mike Leach. We all know Mike Leach unfortunately passes away. Last year, Zach Arnett comes in. I think he completely ruined that whole thing. Don't know why they went away from the air raid, but they did. Will Rogers ends up getting hurt, missing the season, but he committed to Kalen DeBoer to play at Washington this year, and Jedd Fisch convinced him to stay once he came in. And to Jedd Fisch's credit, listen, one, to Will Rogers' credit, he's a really good quarterback, but to Jedd Fisch's credit, this kid is rolling 1,300 yards passing already in 5 games, 10 touchdowns, no interceptions, 75% completion percentage. And again, I can be critical of how Jedd Fisch left Arizona. I can't be critical of what he's done with this offense. And here's the crazy part from Washington's perspective is they are 4-2 right now. 3-2. I'm sorry. Everyone's only played 5 games. But they're 3-2 right now. In the 2 losses, they have outgained the teams that they've lost to. Lost to Washington State 24-19 in a game that they outgained them 452 yards to 381. And then last week at Rutgers, that Friday night game, you just talk about a bizarre result. How about this? Washington, 521 yards of offense. Rutgers, under 300 yards of total offense. Rutgers wins on a walk-off field goal. 2 of 12 on third down on the road probably won't help you there. Michigan, listen, we know what the deal is, right? You lose all those players, but specifically, and we've talked about it, J.J. McCarthy. I think that J.J. McCarthy, I think history is going to look fondly on J.J. McCarthy, maybe even more so than it does now, because Michigan could not figure out the quarterback before he got there. He gets there. They're basically unbeatable. He leaves, and the quarterback situation is a mess. Not a knock, just a reality. Michigan, this is a crazy stat. And listen, anybody listening knows this because you love college football. I don't think people realize how bad the Michigan passing attack is. 130th nationally out of 134 teams. Only New Mexico State, Louisiana Monroe and 2 service academies, Army and Navy, who basically do not throw the ball, are worse than Michigan. Michigan has only attempted 108 pass attempts in 5 games all year, so right around 20 pass attempts per, or what is that? That's not even 20 pass attempts per game. And they just don't want to pass the ball. They want to run the ball. They have been effective running the ball, but I also do think this could be a game where it catches up with them, not because Washington is this amazing run defense, but Michigan, like, it's kind of crazy because you would think as much as they're running the ball, they'd be super effective. They're good. They're not great. 34th in the country in rushing, about 194 yards per game. That's really good. But when you think about how many times a game they're running, it's crazy, right? And so when I look at this game, I think we really have to do a deep dive on Michigan because they are 4-1. They deserve all the credit that they've gotten. There's also some pretty big holes in that offense. And I think that's what's especially interesting to me, especially when you break down some of their wins. Yes, they're 4-1. Fresno was close into the fourth quarter early in the season, the first game of the year. They lose to Texas, beat Arkansas State. But that USC game we all watched. Remember, USC in that game threw a pick 6 late. And basically, listen, people are going to throw out the rushing stats for Michigan, and I get it. But USC throws a pick 6. And even then, on the final drive, Michigan needed to bust a big third down run that basically put them, inside their own territory. And then they needed a 4th down conversion to win the game. And really, if you go back to that Michigan USC game, it was basically 3 plays that broke open the entire game. Now, it's a credit to the O-line. It's a credit to the running backs, Mullings and Donovan Edwards and whatever. But it's not like they were getting 8 yards per carry consistently. They just broke 2 or 3 big ones at an opportune time. Last week against Minnesota, sort of also worth noting. They win 27-20, and you think it's this, a great offensive performance. One of the touchdowns was set up by they won 27-24, excuse me. But one of the touchdowns was set up by a Minnesota turnover deep in their own territory. Another one, and then I should say after that, how about this? Michigan didn't find the end zone after midway through the second quarter. And so they win 27-20, but 21 of those points came with 4 minutes to go in the second quarter. And they 2 field goals, the final, whatever that would be, 34, 35 minutes of the game. And so when I look at this game, I'll be honest, might be crazy. I actually like Washington to win, Washington to cover the 2.5. So we'll get to a score in a second. But when I look at this game, what stands out to me is pretty simple. Listen, I think Sharon Moore was dealt a tough hand. There's a reason Jim Harbaugh left. That quarterback situation was not going to be ideal. By the way, our buddy, maybe Dave Portnoy, who was talking about, buying a QB for Michigan and that NIL might help. But at the same time, like, I look at it pretty straightforward. Is one, I don't think Washington's 3-2, and I think they're probably a little bit better than their record reflects. So that's one. And 2, Michigan's 4-1. I think they're maybe a little bit worse than the record reflects. Easily could have lost to USC. More importantly, here's my big question. If you're struggling to throw the ball at home, advantageous crowd, no noise, no whatever, you're going to be able to throw the ball on the road at Husky Stadium, one of the loudest stadiums in the country. Now, I know that the counter to that is if they can get the run game going, you quiet them really quick. But this just feels like a game to me where if you are having trouble throwing the ball at home, I don't know how it gets better on the road. I'm not saying Washington has this unbelievable run defense because they just don't. But I think this is a game where the home crowd carries Washington. Will Rogers is obviously the better quarterback. He's playing at a really elite level. And I think Washington wins, 21-14, 20-7, 21-7. Like, they're going to win. They're going to cover. That's my best bet in this one.